What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Round two. Let's get some more work done on this Traxxas Slash. I'm going to be racing a little more than a week, so I got to get this thing up and moving. Last video, I did the front end. This time I'm going to go into the differential and we're going to go through the transmission. And I'm going to show you the trick that I do to the bearings. This video is probably one of the more important ones, because if you get this wrong, you've wasted all your time. So let's dig in. The first thing we're going to do is gather up all the bearings. I found 13. I thought there was 15, so I got 2 more. These are fast eddy bearings. That's why they have the black case. The rules state that we're not allowed to switch out to a ceramic bearing, which would be nice, but we're not allowed. We have to use what comes in the box. So as long as it's a steel bearing, you're fine. They're not going to, break your stones over that. But try to stay within the rules. So I got 15 bearings here. What we're going to do is I'm going to take one bearing. You know what? I'm going to use a fast eddy bearing. No, we'll put that in one wheel. Let's just use the Traxxas bearing. I'm going to put that one off to the side. We're not going to modify that one at all. There's no reason to. That one's going to go into the slipper clutch, right into the spur gear. So we're not going to have to do anything with that. Now the other ones here, what we're going to do is they have these shields on both sides, the blue shields. So now we need to figure out what we're going to do with this Slash. One, if you're going to use it in dirt, you're going to replace the seals after we're done. If you want it to last a little bit longer, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. We are going to trim the shields, which I'll show you a little bit later. And since we're running on carpet, yes, we're going to deal with fuzz and other little things. I just take the shields off. I don't even mess with them because honestly, the trimming of them is a pain in the butt, and I don't really want to do that. So we're going to start by taking the shields off of these by using this razor. You take the razor, poke the edge on the outside, pry it up, just like that. Comes off in your hand, put it off to the side. You're going to flip it over, you're going to do the same thing. And if you push down on it and it doesn't come out and it's a little stiff, just move around the bearing. You'll find a spot that'll get the blade underneath. And you take that side off. So basically you're left with this. Just an open-ended ball bearing and race. What we're going to do is, if you can see, if I can quit dropping it, inside the race there is grease. Traxxas puts a thicker grease on these for longevity. I don't want that because it doesn't spin nearly as free with that grease. If you're going to run this thing outside, you're going to give it to the kids, yes, that's fine. We're not looking for longevity here. We're looking for speed now. So what I want to do is I want to clean all that grease out. So the best way that I found to do that is by using this. See that here? Just a simple mason jar. You can use any type of glass jar. I recommend glass. And this is just acetone. Just automotive grade acetone. You can get it at any O'Reilly's or Napa, whatever. And I'm going to throw all the bearings inside there. What you're going to see is the acetone will start eating that grease away. And I'm just going to agitate it. Just start spinning it. And you'll actually see little white floaters inside the acetone. That's the grease that comes out of these. And then I'm going to pick them all out. Now, we're going to have to put some kind of a lube on them. We don't want metal on metal. So what I found works really well is, this is made by Liberty Oil Products. All it is a 100% synthetic lube, just like a gun oil. You can use like an AMSOIL gun oil. Cow RC makes the Moose Slick. That would work real well. We just want a nice thin oil. Nothing really thick to replace the grease. That will get these steel bearings really moving. So I'm going to take the rest of these shields off camera because it's kind of monotonous. And I'm going to put them in the jar and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Alright, now that all the shields are off, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 bearings. Oh, I forgot a shield on one. Okay, I got to take that off quick. Dunk them right into the acetone. Just let them sit there. It's going to take a little bit, so I mean, I'm going to continue working. Get that off there. Alright, there's my last one. We'll put them off to the side. We're going to let them sit. Okay, now as I was saying with these shields, the shields, if you're going to use this outside as well as race it indoor, might as well just put them back on. So you have 3 ways to do it. We can simply just put them back on. You set them right on the race, push it around with the razor, it'll go right back in easier than what it came out. Now if you look on the inside here, let me see if we can get a good zoom on it. There's a nice metal ring that the plastic forms around, but it has that inner lip. That inner lip is the problem. That rides on the bearing when it spins, so it actually creates drag. It's not a lot of drag, but when you have that many bearings, it all adds up. And I'll show you how long this thing spins when we're done. So what you want to do, if you're going to intend to put these on, but you want it to last a little bit longer, if you want to invest the time, you can trim the inside edge. If you look at the inside edge, like I said, that rubber goes all the way around it. You can basically just take this razor like this, take your time. A hobby knife would probably be a lot easier to use, and just scrape at it like this, and you'll see you'll cut little strings off of it. Once you cut the strings off of it, you'll actually see the exposed metal. It actually will cut that interior ring off, so it no longer rides, but just like this. And now we don't have to worry about it dragging on the bearing. The problem is, it's probably going to take you a couple minutes each one of these, and as you can see, I got a bunch of them. So if you want to take the time to do it, go ahead. I will run these bearings and clean them now and then, and when they're shot, I'll just replace them. I'm not going through all that. That's way too much time invested for me. Well, while we're waiting the bearings to do their thing, let's build this differential. One thing I like about the kits over the pre-built is they come with grease already sort of in the diff, and that would have to be removed. With this, it's clean as a whistle. I ain't got to remove anything. Now, the new Slash kits come with the 272 transmission. I thought it was the 272R. It is not the 272R. It does not have a sealed differential. Wish it did. That would have been nice, but that's okay. So what we have here is a basic 4-gear differential. Comes with grease that we will not be using. Do not use this grease. This grease is not what we're going to be using. And it comes with all your pins and your screws. So the way that this is going to go together, it's really straightforward. There's really not a whole lot we have to worry about this, but you can screw this up real easy as well. The way I do it is, I'm going to take my pins, and I'm going to get a pair of pliers. Just makes it a little bit easier to put them in the holes if you're holding onto them. I'm going to put our pins in. The problem with these differentials is it's really hard, since they're not sealed, to really tune them. The idea would be is I'd want a good amount of lockup, or enough that if I'm going around a fast sweeper, I'm not really having to worry about the diff coming unlocked and basically peg legging around the corner and just spinning the inside tire off. But I also need it very loose, so that way when I want to turn the truck, it's going to turn. And I noticed the tighter you do the rear on these also, it tends to spin the rear end out. It's not really going to be beneficial for us to do that. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You could try to put some stuff in here. Like, let's say you want to put like a 100K weight oil in it, or 10K. It's too thin. It'll basically, there's no seal on it. There's no seal on this cap. If you put that in there, it's going to leak out. It'll last maybe for a run or two, but it's coming out. There's no way it's going to stay. So then if you try to throw something real heavy in it, like a 1,000,000 weight oil or 20 million weight oil, basically turn it into a locker, the truck's just going to do donuts. It's not going to turn, or it's just going to spin the back end out. It's just a mess. So I don't know really much to do with these. I usually just leave them dry. I don't put the grease inside of them. And I take a little bit, like I said, of that Liberty oil, and I just put a little bit on the gears, just because I feel sorry for them. They're going to be running a little bit dry, but it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. If you put the grease in there, you're going to get rid of a lot of the, you're going to add a lot of friction to the drivetrain, because it's just thick and it makes everything bind up. It's not really beneficial. So I got my 4 pins, 4 gears. You got your 1 output it has a little pin to connect to the second output. It doesn't really matter if you line them up because they free move either way. They're not locked. Here's the important part with the diff, is putting the cover on. You want to make sure the cover is tight, but you don't want to over tighten it, because if you over tighten it and everything's just, well, over tight, it's not going to want to spin. See, that's too tight. Why don't we like it? Let's get this thing in. There we go. Nice and free. Comes with the 4 screws. So when we put these 4 screws in, let's get a wrench. It's a 1.5, I think. We put the screws in. Nope, that's a 2. We want to make sure we don't over tighten the case, and it basically will ride just as nice. While I let those bearings soak in that acetone, I'm going to take let's start working on this transmission. You get your 2 transmission halves. It looks like the clutch, the slipper clutch assemblies right here, your idler gears, your output shafts. Comes with a couple of the 272, like the 1985 shims, and all your hardware. So the dust cover, this is an optional part. You don't have to run the dust cover if you're running indoors. I tend to do it, but it's totally an option. It's up to you. It's a couple of ounces either way. But let's take a look at it. I'm going to need, well, how many bearings? 1, 2, 3, 4. I dug out 2 of them already that were ready to go. It's starting to look like a small snow globe inside that jar. So what I'm going to do is just give it a quick final inspection. And it looks good. I'd say all the grease is out of it, and we're going to take that Liberty grease, the Liberty oil, just throw a little layer. It's going to sling out. There's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is, and we're going to place them into the case. And my finger took some of it away, so I'm going to add a little bit more. I wouldn't put the shields on the ones inside the transmission due to the fact that they're inside. They're really not going to get too much, or you can even do half, because only that part's going to be exposed behind the axle. So that's up to you. That's all up to you. If you just want to put the time in and cut the shields down, have at it. As for me, no, I'm not doing it. Now I need 2 more bearings. Let's take a look. Here's another one. And a couple little floaters of grease in here. Get them out. There's the grease. Toss it in the jar. Just give it a quick little once over. Alright, that one's good. Get one more. We're going to need one more. Alright, this still has some in it. This stuff will eventually work its way out anyway, but as long as you have about 90% of it out, it'll still achieve what we're trying to do. The transmission is probably the important parts. The wheels are important, but the transmission, if you can get as much of this grease out and get this thing to spin as free as possible, the more beneficial all of this will be worth, because we're all working with the same amount of horsepower here. So if we can get it to the point where I have less drag, I'm going to go faster than you on that same horsepower. So that's my goal here. Alright, place all 4 bearings in. We'll throw a little something in there. A little something in there for you. Okay. Going to need the 32th idler gear. Okay, let's open this bag. Here's our output. Here's my idler. Clutch spring can go back in there. And I'm going to need the dowel. Where is the dowel? There's the dowel. Okay, there's the dowel. So we're going to slide our input shaft in this way. Okay. And we're going to need 2 more bearings for this. I'll load the idler up, so I'll pull 2 more out of the jar. Okay, like I said, agitate it. Just take it and kick them around. That'll help work that grease out of that bearing. Alright, put it back. Alright, let's take a look at these. Same thing. Just a couple little pieces. That's it. Work them out. Okay. Oh, that one's clean. Alright, don't gotta do anything with that. Alright, one on one side, one on the other. Lube them up. Gonna put our dowel in. That side's lubed up, so let's throw this in there. Let's see how I like it. Okay. Now, this is going to require some shimming. This is where we're going to watch for our friction, right here. This is what's going to watch. We're going to watch for the friction on these 2 gears. We want these 2 gears to be like butter, just real smooth. The bearings feel good. You see, they spin nice. So I'm going to take this back off, both bearings, and I'm going to use those 1985 shims that they had. They included them, but I bought extras because we will need them. Okay. So I'm going to put a shim on each side. I'm going to pull this out a little bit. Put it back on. And I'm going to put the box together. What we're looking for is, I want as little drag as possible. I want that thing to basically just feel like it's floating in there. So tighten her up. See that? There is way too much play in that bearing. So I'm going to take these other 2 washers and I'm going to put it on that shaft. I don't like the play in that shaft. So we'll pull the shaft back out. It's going to go bearing, shield, bearing, shim, I'm going to watch the shims for the other one. Make sure they don't go anywhere. I'm going to put that back through. I'll put another one on this side. Okay, let's put it back together and let's check it again. Quite a bit less, see? There's a lot less up and down movement. I actually may put another shim in there. Let's see if it gets too tight. We want to make sure that it's not going to be too tight either. So let's bust open a new pack of those. Grab one. These things are only $2. It's good to have around. Takes out slopping either wheel bearings, transmission, any type of bearing surface. These will usually do the trick. So I'm going to add a second washer to the inside. We'll put it back together again. sure the case is tight. There is no slop in that whatsoever. It spins nice and free. I'd say that's it right there. Actually, it's a little too tight. I'm going to pull that back out. I'd say that I'd rather a little bit of up and down movement for free spin. We'll pull that back off. I don't know where that went. Ooh. See? Shim came off that other bearing. Okay. Oh, we're making a mess. It's on there. That's on there. Okay, that's a good start. All right, we're gonna put the differential in place and put the case together. Just like that. What we're looking for is free spin, and if you look, that's pretty much what you're looking for. You got some guys that'll take this thing and they can spin it forever, it'll just keep going, but for where we're going, that'll be plenty. And that's a lot more rotation than you would have got out of if you didn't do the bearing trick. Alright, now when we tighten the case, the shortest of the screws, the 20 millimeter screw, is going to go always on the inside here. And the other 5 are 23 millimeter screws. You're going to tighten them down by hand. Don't use any type of electric tool on these, because what we want to do is we want to snug it up to make sure it's nice all the way around. It doesn't need to have to be over tightened. If you over tighten this case, you're basically just going to put all the friction right back into it. We want everything to work just nice and square. We don't want anything over tightened that doesn't need to be. It's there, nice and bottomed out. Tighten up all 5 screws and the transmission should be together. Give it a good spin. If you can get a good spin out of it, move on to the next step. Alright, now assembly of the slipper clutch. There's going to be a small pin you put through the hole into the output shaft. Then you're going to put the plate on. After the plate, there's a small friction disc. We're going to put the friction disc in. It's got 4 little teeth that stick out. You're going to make sure you put the friction disc on the 4 little teeth. Next, you got to take the friction material, friction pads, and mount it onto the second plate. You just kind of go onto the pins, give them a little press, and that's that. This will ride into just sitting on top, and that doesn't do anything. Next thing we're going to need is a bearing. There's going to be a 5x114 bearing. That is going to go, let's see, right on top of that. That is what the spur gear rides on. So we're going to find that bearing that we didn't do anything to. We're going to put that on there. It's going to sit right on top. Then you take the spur gear, line the holes up so that way you can mount the screws. I find it easier just to put the bearing in afterwards, but I'm going to follow the instructions. Traxxas knows best. Just like that, we'll press the bearing down. Okay, there's our screws. Then you're going to have these 3 little screws here, have the big end on them. They're going to go into and make the plates work. It's going to be a 2.5, so I got to get a different driver for that. Zap them in, move on. Now those are just basic cheap metal, so we're not going to go over tightening them. There you go. Since it's a 3-bolt style setup, you can just work your way around. You don't have to worry about skipping around like if you're doing a 5-lug on a tire. Just move it around. There we go. And the third one. Okay. There we go. Slipper spring goes on top. And the slipper nut. There is no washer in between. It's just a nylon nut. And take this, run it down with your hand. Now the way I do these, I would adjust this at the track, but a simple starting setup would be, take it, hold on to the gear, and I run it down till it stops. Okay, we're tighter and tight now, nice and bottomed out. Take it back a quarter turn. There you go. So what we're going to do is when we go to the track, we're going to watch. If this thing starts pulling wheelies, we're going to loosen that up a little bit. Other than that, for now, that's all we're going to be able to do. Next step in the thing, it's telling me to put the motor in. So I'm going to get the motor in the pinion. I guess as far as the ruling goes, if you're going to use the new bl2s setup, is that you're going to have to run stock gearing. So it comes with the set gear plate. I'm going to use it. Why not? If I'm not allowed to use adjust gearing, I might as well use it. So let's get the motor out and let's get that mounted. Alright, let's take a look at that bl2s system. This is a pretty nice little motor. Traxxas went and did their own thing with a nice little plug on the end of it, which means it's got to be used, I guess, with the same ESC. Traxxas likes to use proprietary plugs. The gearing set mesh thing has to be, there's two little holes on the bottom, has to be set on B, so make sure you set that on B, not A. Let's see what the pinion it comes with. Comes with a stock 21 tooth. Okay, 21 tooth pinion. It's going to be 2183 is stock. So if I have to stick with that, then that's what we're going to be running. We'll have to see. I guess they said if it goes any faster than the older slashes, they're going to limit me in gearing, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So we need some blue Loctite. Blue Loctite for our pinion gear. Alright, Loctite's getting a little thick. We might have to get some new stuff. Okay. Let's find the flat in the motor. Okay. Okay. Gear mesh seems a little tight, but I'm sure that'll go in. That's how Traxxas wanted it, that's how we're doing it. Alright, transmission's done, the powertrain is in. Let's move on to the next step. Next step's going to be putting the drive shafts in. Now, the only thing to do with the drive shafts is these are just the inners. When you do the inners and outers, you can see like this one has 2 ears on it, and the output shaft has 2 ears on it. Is when we do the outer part of the axle, I want to line the ears on the inside with the ears to the outside, so that way everything is lined up in line. That takes a little bit of the nonsense out of the drivetrain. It makes it a lot easier for it to articulate. Now, these are just plastic, so there is no need for any thread lock or anything like that. So just grab your 1.5. Run them on in, and repeat on the other side. Now we're done with the transmission in this part for now, so we're going to put that off to the side, the front end, and it's time to start the rear suspension bag. So let's open this up, let's take a look at what's in it. Okay, I got some rear bumper parts. Hope the rear bumper has been redesigned because I used to hate that other one. Hardware bag. There's some rear arms, there's the other half of the drive shafts, and some links. There's our body mounts, rear shock tower, chassis brace, couple of our suspension hubs, rear bumper, some miscellaneous shim. Once it came out of the bag, there's the bag with the other shim. So there's some shims included in this. Alright, first step's going to be, we're going to need the links out of here, and we're going to mount them to our shock tower. One thing I did notice, this is awesome. This is a nice little thing I like here, is back in the day you used to have these two mounts here. These you could run your link higher or lower. We used to run them higher. I guess it was higher grip, we'd raise them, which would raise the roll center, and you always had to take them and Dremel out this section because the link would end up hitting the bottom and it would basically limit the travel. As you can see, Traxxas kind of beveled their newer style. That way I shouldn't have to do it. Look how nice that is. That's great. So let's get these links out, get them on, keep on going. Alright, both camber links are on, and I put them right to the top, right off the rip, because it seems like what I always end up doing anyway. And like I said, look, all the articulation, no problem. That was always an issue with the older Slash. Now always note the orientation on these because they use the flat style screws. It has, one part is flush with the ear, the other part sticks out. We need to make sure we have the part that sticks out going towards the shock tower. And then on the back, you're always going to want to put the fatter side towards the steering arm, just like that. Next step, we're going to mount the whole thing right onto the transmission system that we got. It's going to be using 3x12mm button screws that they've provided. So it's going to be one of these, one of those. Get them mounted up. Next thing, we'll put the body mount on. Next will be the clipless body mount. That's going to be using these screws. These here, 2.5x12 CS screws. Looks like it has 3 different mounts. We're going to be using, which ones do they want you to use? That's confusing. Top 2. Okay, top 2 it is. Mount them right there. Next step is the lower control arms. These are also the upgraded control arms from the basic Slash. These are nice. Pretty simple, straightforward. We're just going to make sure that there's not a whole lot of slop in them. The fronts went on really nice, so I don't expect these to be any of a problem either. And our hinge pins, we are going to be using the longer hinge pins for the bottom. So these ones, let's see, how long are these ones? These are the 46 mils. So we're going to make sure you have the longer of the 4 pins. Alright, got the axles installed. Going to put these onto the control arms. Where do they want me to set them? They want it on the lower hole. Basically what these holes do is, on the bottom is, I've noticed, you know, for higher bite tracks, you're going to raise them up. So that's where they're setting this, basically this setup they're doing for a high bite track, which carpet is a high bite track, so I think I'll be in good shape. So let's see here. It's going to go on just like this. Axle shaft in, through the bearing. Where are they setting the top drive shaft? On the top hole. Yep, that's how it's worked. They're setting this up for high bite. So, goes through there. Same thing with these pins. These are the shorter of the 4 pins. These are going to go through the back. Tighten them down. Now, here's one very important part. They've already included a couple extra ones here, so I have them. When we put our pin through the drive shaft, I want to see how much slop is in this thing before it bottoms out. I can see a gap. There's a huge gap. So you can go in left to right, left to right, left to right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those shims there. I'll pop the pin back out. You can pull these axles right back out. Just like that. I'm going to put one on the inside. I like to put the shims towards the inside. I don't like using them as much on the outside. I'm going to put a shim in there. I'll run this back in. Check it again. Probably took up a good amount of the slack. Now you don't want to put too many shims in here. If you put too many shims in here and you start to bind together the bearings, see, it still has a little bit, but it's not bad, but it's tight. I bet if I put one more shim on the outside, it's going to be too many. So come on out, pin. There we go. If it's too many, I'll pull it back off. I'm going to pull it all apart again anyway, because if it works, I'll put that shim on the inside. But rather than pull the axle in and out, in and out. Yeah, like I thought, there is no give in that whatsoever. It's just too tight. So that shim is not going to go in. So I'm going to push that pin back out. We're going to pull the shim off. So let me. There we go. Pull that shim off, put the pin on. I'm going to put the hexes on. And this is a wrap. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. It says to put the camber arm on the top hole. So we're going to mount that to the top hole. And do the same on the other side. Alright, final steps are to get the bottom skid plate and I don't know what they call this. I guess it's just a chassis support onto the bottom and get the back bumper installed. And the whole rear section is pretty much ready to go. The bottom part's going to use these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there should be another one. And then 2 small ones. They're going to be that one and that one. Alright, I'm going to get this thing put on and we'll start the assembly of the rear bumper. When installing the rear bumper, one thing I wish they would have changed is if you look right here on the transmission side with the gears, they have this little section right here. This section is the side that there isn't a screw hole. Like there's one right here on this side, but there's nothing from here to here on this one. This is the one that likes to pop off and it'll lay underneath. That is going to ruin your race day. That will end up taking it and, well, it won't fly the bumper off, but it'll stick right into the carpet. You'll jump, the suspension will get low, bang, it'll flip you right over. So keep an eye on that. I'm going to put it on. I'm not going to nip it off. If that starts to fold under, just take a Dremel tool or anything that you can use to cut it and just chop it right off. That's one thing I wish they would have changed that Traxxas didn't. But, you know, I don't think Traxxas takes into account how much these back bumpers get beat on. Well, alright, here we go. Rear section is complete. Front section, off camera, I'm going to put the spindles together. I'm going to take those other bearings out of the acetone because they're done. And put those together. In the next video, we're going to finish assembly. I'm going to get the chassis all put together, and we're going to build the shocks. The shocks are probably your most important part, so that one's going to take a little bit, but other than that, this kit's coming together real nice, and I can't wait to race it. So if you like what you see, like and subscribe, share the channel. Till next time, peace.